Hey, what's going on? Dharma Guy here with the Dope Doctor on Dharma Time on WPSN99.com, your problem-solving network. That was my It's Brett TV impression there.
I saw that.
That's right. He does it so great. I can't compete.
Nope.
He has so much hype and energy, man. But anyways, welcome. It is Tuesday, and man, it's been a while. It's been 2 weeks since we've had a show. I've had some messages from people saying, "Hey, what's going on? I haven't had any new shows."
Yeah, you were kind of busy.
Well, if we're going to be technical here,
you're just kind of busy. You know, I mean, you just had things to do.
The reason why we hadn't had the show is because Birthday Boy over here takes the entire month of October. So that would be why, everybody.
You just ratted me out.
The first Tuesday was because his parents came in and they were doing some stuff with him. And then the following Tuesday was because it was his actual birthday. And he was basically doing anything but here. So
okay.
That's where our listeners rank, everybody.
Yeah.
Just want to put that out there. Anyways.
It's still October, by the way, so you're lucky I'm here.
Yeah, right?
You better say happy birthday to me again.
Feliz cumpleaños, man.
Así es.
Anyways, so a lot of stuff's happened since we've been gone, or since we've been on the air. Although I do say we did the Couch Live, but we didn't do this one. But no, so a lot's been happening, and we have some good shows coming up, I believe. I got to get some confirmation of guests, but I think we got some good stuff coming. But so since we've been gone, one of the things that happened was a hurricane. It was Matthew, I think, or Michael. I don't know, it was an M, I think. I don't remember which one it was. That's how much we care here in Central Florida. If it doesn't hit us, we don't really pay attention, and we get so many of them. But no, here we live in Florida, obviously, and so there was a hurricane that hit the Panhandle. It was pretty strong. It was a Category 5, I believe, when it hit, or at least close to it. Devastated the Panhandle, caused a lot of damage and wreckage. And hopefully everybody up there is okay and rebounding and coming back from it. We totally get it here in Florida. We understand. We've had our fair share. But it got me to thinking, right? I saw some pictures. Did you see any of the pictures?
Of what?
Of the devastation left behind by the hurricane?
Yeah.
There's apparently just one guy had one house that like withstood everything. Everything around it was rubble.
That's just crazy.
Which was insane.
That's just crazy.
I guess like they did a story on him. I didn't read the whole thing, but apparently the way they built it in preparation for hurricanes, and it stood the test, I guess. But it got me to thinking, right? When I looked at that, it looked almost like a tornado does, where it just, I mean, it looks like a landfill, just broken pieces everywhere. And so it got me thinking, we live in Florida, we live in Orlando, we get hurricanes. Like how do you come back from that, right? Like how do you find out the hurricane's hitting you on a Wednesday? You're
right.
doing what you got to do. You're living your life. You're kind of you're going to work. You're paying bills. You're raising kids. You're having a family, and then you hear this hurricane is out there. This weather's coming. You batten down the hatches. You buy all your supplies. We all, not to sound kind of I don't know, not to sound crazy here, but none of us really think it's going to happen to us, right? Like we live here. We know it's coming. We know it's possible. But I don't think anybody really expects their house to get completely demolished.
Right.
We know it could happen. We prepare for it, but we don't really confront that idea, I don't think.
Right.
So Wednesday night comes, and you hear the howling of the wind, and maybe you evacuate, maybe you don't. Thursday morning you wake up and your house is gone. I don't mean unlivable.
Yeah. I
mean gone, like wiped off the face of the map.
Right.
You come back to your house and it's just literally like a pile of stuff. How do you, so it got me to thinking, like, in spirituality, I always try to talk about, pain is a part of life and we cause our own suffering. And once again, I always tell everybody it's easy. Right. Or it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
In other words, it's a simple concept to do, to not suffer, but it's not easy, you know? And so it got me thinking, how do you deal with disaster? Like, how do you come back from that? So the two things that was really on my mind about that were the two sides of it was, number one was, let's say you had a disaster hit you, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a natural disaster.
Right.
Let's just say disaster in general, and things that, examples I can think of that would be considered disasters for most people would be, of course, losing everything.
Right.
Things like divorce, maybe, or like losing a child, losing a loved one. Right. Those are all disastrous kind of moments in our lives. Mm-hmm. So how do you have that happen and wake up the next morning and start rebuilding and start coming back from that? And then the other thing that I want to talk about today is if you're the friend or family or loved one of somebody, how do you help that person come back from it? Like, how do you tell that person, hey, it's going to be okay?
Yeah, how do you support them?
Yeah, how do you support that person? Because I can tell you right now, man, I don't know if the person who woke up Thursday morning and their house completely destroyed, once their buddy called him, hey, everything's going to be okay, man. It's going to be like, screw you, bro. Like, I just lost everything. So I don't know. That's what got me thinking about it. That's what I want to talk about today.
Right.
Because I think that it happens, right? Every day. You have natural disasters. We have earthquakes happening on the West Coast. We have blizzards happening up north. We have Tornado Alley, obviously. We have hurricane here, and they're very destructive. And I think I think bad decisions can help you lose everything, but that typically requires time.
Yeah.
And as it gets worse, you kind of adapt. And then you look back. I'm like, wow, I lost everything. To whereas a natural disaster, one day everything's completely fine and you're building a life, and the next day it's gone.
Right.
Like I can't imagine that, man.
No,
I cannot imagine. Once again, even like a fire or something happens. You kind of watch it happen, and you can. Even then, there's still a structure sometimes. Like, not to say that having your house burn up is a good thing, but dude, to go to sleep and come back and it's gone, like instantly, you lose everything that you've saved for, everything that you've built. That's got to be a hard moment, man. Like, I like to think that I'm skillful enough to where I could come out the other side of that well.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I think it would take some time. What do you think?
You have to completely detach from everything physical.
Yeah.
That would be. I mean,
yeah.
You may think that you're not attached to physical things until you lose all your
exactly.
things.
Exactly.
And I would think at that moment you would realize just how attached you are.
Yeah.
To things. I mean, I'm a very nostalgic person.
Right.
So things do carry meaning. And so if those things are gone, stolen, lost, broken, whatever, it hurts.
Yeah.
And you have to recover from that. But when you think of an entire household, you think every picture.
Yeah.
I mean, every picture.
Yeah.
Every bit
everything.
of memory that you have attached to an item is gone.
Everything.
So it's like, and for those of you that say, oh, well, we shouldn't be attached to physical things. Well, just imagine an entire library. All of a sudden, we have no libraries. At one time, every library in the world is gone, and we have no more of those books.
Yeah.
Or if at the same time, every museum was gone, and we have no more physical memories. So it's not just individuals placing importance on physical items.
Right.
We're talking about there's no more history. There's no more proof that you existed.
Yeah. I think I don't know. I mean, part of my spiritual journey was the detachment of things, in a sense, right? Like, I try to do my best to allow things to be what they are, right? So I have things in my life that I enjoy, but I try to not attach my happiness to those things, right?
Yeah.
But this is where the whole simple but not easy thing comes in, right? Like, I think it's somewhat easy when you detach yourself, and you might lose like your favorite pair of shoes or something, right? Because you still have everything else.
Right.
But I think it's a whole nother thing to wake up and it's gone, everything. Like, you have nothing but the clothes on your back. Like, your favorite, your comfy like house clothes are gone.
Right.
Your pictures, your albums, all these little like knickknacks that you've saved, and all these little memories from all these places you've gone.
Right.
Like, everything. And then if you have children, all their stuff is gone. So now you can't even really grieve because you got to support your kids and help them understand why all their stuff is gone. Like, that's got to be so hard, man. And so how do you wake up like that? And there's other disasters, right? And I think they're kind of similar, right? In the sense of the bouncing back, but I think they're also different, because I think how I would bounce back from losing everything in a like a hurricane or something is a little bit different than how I'd bounce back from like a really bad divorce or something,
right?
Or even losing a child,
right? So
the losing a child one, I think that's going to be my hardest one for me personally, and so we'll deal with that one a little bit later. But do you agree with it? Do you think it's different? Do you think it's different bouncing back from, like, do you think it would affect you differently if you woke up tomorrow and realized, a hurricane came and destroyed everything that you have, versus you and Dana have been together for like 30 years now, and she just woke up tomorrow and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Versus, I mean, obviously losing a kid I think would be much different, but What do you think? You think you respond to those differently? Do you think they have a different weight in your life?
Wow, that's a very intense question, to be
Uh-huh.
honest with you.
It's an intense show.
Yeah, I think because it would all be a matter of opinion. Because until you're in those situations, I don't think I can really quantify just how deeply moved I'd
Obviously.
be at each one. I would like to believe that in the ranking order of those three, it'd be children, Dana, possessions.
I would like to think that as well.
I would like to think that.
Yeah.
However, in thinking more about it, I'm sure I can make a case for possessions even over Dana, not because they're more important than Dana, but because they involve the connection to my own parents and my own existence. Like I said, so if your existence is gone, then I would have to completely flip to my entire existence is based on what happens moving forward, right? Whereas
I agree.
Whereas with a partner in your life, a lot of people go through divorce and breakups and then start over.
Yeah.
But they still existed. There's, what I mean, like it still happened, and you can always say, "Hey, those were good times. We just fell out of love." Whatever. You know what I mean?
That's where I agree with you at. Like for me, the kids would be number one, hands down, no matter what.
That one you can't. I don't think you can. I
don't
beat
think
kids
there's a
for
negotiation for that one.
No.
But for me, I would like to think it would be, my wife's 2 and all my stuff 3. Having said that, yes, I can see myself rationalizing.
Yeah.
Hey, it is what it is. We didn't work out. It's just time to get back on the train. Because I still have my life. I still have all these things. I still have, the only thing that's going to really change is my day-to-day routines and my connection to this other person, which would suck, obviously. I wouldn't want to get rid of it, but I've bounced back from that before. Like, we've all had breakups and things of that nature. I've done that. Maybe not to the extent of connection I currently have, but it's a routine that I would remember, I remember this. I know how to do this. Whereas just losing every single thing that you own, like losing everything that you identify with, that's got to be tough. That's got to be tough, dude.
Right.
Like, what would make it easier though is to having that person, right? Like, I think it would be easier for me to bounce back from losing everything if I was still married with my kids.
Yeah.
Because I have that other person to lean on a little bit, and we can kind of come together, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's rough. But you brought up a good point that I wanted to make sure we mentioned. I mean, we might be bouncing around here, but who cares? That's what we do.
All right.
But you did bring up a point that I think is important to comment on, and that is, you said matter of opinion. One thing I've noticed a lot, though, is it does start to become sort of a pissing contest with people, and I don't think I like that very much, in the sense of, I'll give you a background story. I was watching a show. Right, and I'm not going to promote them because they're not paying me. So I was watching a show, and there was these 2 girls that were they're friends, and they're having a discussion that turned into an argument and like a big wedge between the 2 of them. And one friend had she was pregnant, and she gave birth to the child. It wasn't stillborn, but it died in the hospital. Like, it was dead after a very, very short period of time. So she had the ability to give birth, to hold and hug and feed and things of that nature, and then it passed. And then the other girl ended up having a miscarriage, like in the middle of her pregnancy. And so what happened was the 2 of them were discussing, and the girl with the miscarriage was I guess what happened was at the very beginning when she found out she didn't really want to have it, she was in a kind of weird relationship at the time, and it kind of freaked her out. But then as she became more comfortable with the idea, she started having attachment, like, you have a life growing inside of me. And she had the miscarriage, and it really, I guess it affected her. But the problem was when they were having a discussion, she mentioned that she knows what the other girl feels like because I lost a baby too. Yeah. And the other girl was like, no, you don't. Like, and so essentially what it was they got into that fight of my pain is bigger than your pain.
Right.
And so I see that happen a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I can see that, even in like those neighborhoods, right? Yeah. Where this person, these 2 people lost their homes, but this person feels like their home was more important. Or maybe their home was valued a little bit more. Or maybe they have more stuff
second
inside.
Home,
yeah,
rather than their main home.
Yeah, or like, I had a Ferrari in the driveway, and you had a truck.
Yeah.
So mine was worse. Dude, we still lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something we got to understand, or we got to comment on. I think is your pain is real.
Well, I think it's
loss
normal,
is loss.
Right? It's normal to compare, right? And
of course.
And I think part of the skill of maturity and part of the skill set within wisdom is to reduce the amount of comparisons because comparisons can be very painful.
Yes.
And so, unless you want to cause your own suffering a little bit deeper, you probably want to reduce the amount of time you compare to others, and let other people's loss be what it is for them. Right? That's their definition of complete loss and failure. I think where it becomes a problem really is, let's say you're the one that first starts a conversation and says, "This is what I've lost," and then someone tries to one up you.
Yeah.
I think in that kind of scenario, I can see why you would be frustrated and say, "Well, can I just finish saying what I'm feeling, or let me just express what I'm feeling."
Yeah.
I'm not saying yours is any less, however, but remember, I started this conversation because I just need to kind of vent it. I kind of need to let it out.
Yeah.
But that's always all hard to say. So those people tend to just pull back, or they tend to keep one up on each other, just get frustrated.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, I mean, obviously what brought on this conversation is the disaster with the hurricane and stuff like that. I think what's really relevant here is whether it be, like you said, a fire earlier, or whether it be even just a tree, falling on one room of your house.
Right.
So that person that's suffering the tree falling on one room of their house, the other person says, well, but I lost my entire house.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, in reality, all of these things are disasters.
Well, the thing is, people don't we have as a society at this point, and I'm not sure if it's been a consistent thing or if it's just in today's day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will say that we have this hard time wrapping our head around the idea that two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it could be totally sucky that you lost your entire house.
Yeah.
But it's also sucky that this person, lost a room in their house.
No.
Like, two things can be true. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Dude, it's completely sucky if you're, you got a flat tire and you had to get to work.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, some people over exaggerate pain in your eyes. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. All right. So when Dana and I were dating, early on in the dating process, I'm on the phone with her, right? And I stepped on a toothpick. The toothpick goes deep inside my foot. I mean, deep inside my foot.
That sucks.
So I'm here making all kinds of noises, and she's wondering on the other end, probably like, what is this guy going on and on about? So finally, I was able to explain to her that it was a toothpick inside my foot, and I pulled it out. But my reaction must have bothered her so much. She goes, at least it wasn't a rusty nail. And the way I felt when she said that was like she was being very dismissive.
Right.
And to be honest with you,
very validated.
if I wasn't just dating this girl at the time, and I didn't have so much love for this girl at the time, I would have cursed her out and hung up. I was that mad at that comment.
I can see that.
To this date, we still joke about that comment.
Wow.
That she said. So every time I see something and someone's crying or complaining, I just say, at least it wasn't a rusty nail. She'll know exactly what I'm saying. But my point is that, so sometimes when we're going on and on about our disaster, it's very unfortunate that another person is sitting there and judging that level of disaster.
Yeah.
So I think we all need to ask ourselves, do I really need to sit here and judge your reaction, that you're overreacting, that you're underreacting? Because either way is bad, right? Like Dana didn't cry at her father's funeral.
Right.
None of her family saw her cry when her dad died. She was, 20 years old?
Right.
And I was barely dating her. And around that same time period as a rusty nail. I should have looked at her at the funeral and said, at least it wasn't rusty nail, right? But no.
God,
so she wasn't crying. And everybody kept coming up to me and says, you better, she's gonna break down. It's gonna happen. You better be careful. What's going on with her? Everybody's worried because she what do you call it? Responded. She underreacted.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is we all have this, we all think that this is how it's supposed to be, and anything deviating from that is either really good or really, really bad. Right?
Yeah, based on our perspective of what's normal.
Yeah, so it's like in some of these murder trial type things, right? Like I've literally seen people convicted because they didn't respond the way they thought they should have responded after that happened.
100%.
Like, hold up, everybody responds differently, and I even remember one of the biggest things I had to learn, not necessarily in relation to devastation, but just in relationship to pain in general, emotional or otherwise. That was one of the things I had to learn, in my marriage.
Yeah.
There was things that would happen that my wife would get really upset about, and I'm like, it's such a stupid thing.
Right.
But I had to learn, it might be stupid to me, but it's not stupid to her. And she's allowed to be upset about something. She's allowed to think something is painful, even if I don't necessarily think it is. And that was one of the things I had to learn. And in life, we have to kind of keep that in mind. Who am I to tell somebody, hey, you only had a tree fall through your house.
Right.
It's not that bad.
Right.
Well, of course it's easy for me to say. It didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something. If it happened to me, I bet you I'd feel it's a lot worse. I think if I woke up tomorrow and found out a tree went through my house, I'd be a little upset.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to wait until that happens before I start to empathize with that person in front of me.
Right.
And so I think that's, so coming from the person's perspective that it happened to you,
Right.
I think that is one of the first steps on the road to rebuilding, is it not? Is just to accept that this happened.
Well, I think that, oddly enough, I think the greater the tragedy, because it kind of forces you to accept it,
Right.
I think the greater the tragedy, the easier it is to actually go through the process of healing.
Right.
I think the lesser tragedies are more difficult because you're allowed to sit there and be bitter. But when
Right.
you've lost everything, you're absolutely forced to accept it.
Yeah.
There's no it coulda, shoulda, woulda, maybe. It's over. It's done.
Yeah.
Get over it. Move forward. And they know that. And so people that have suffered the loss of their child, people that have suffered loss of somebody that close to them, people that have suffered the loss of all property and every evidence that they ever even existed, those individuals have a higher ability, I think, to process through these things that you're talking about today and not get over it, because that's kind of like minimizing, but to heal from it and
Right.
learn from it. So it's almost better to if you're going to suffer a disaster, have it be so major that it forces you to heal, because if it's
Yeah.
one of those middle level disasters,
Right.
you could walk around your entire life and just not heal.
Right. Yeah. No, I've seen that. People like a loss of a job or something like that, or a bad breakup. or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
They live with it forever.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just bitter about it.
Bitter
like,
people.
30 years later, they're still
They
bitter.
carry it on and
Yeah.
carry it on. But you don't see someone who lost an entire house says, I will never buy another house again. That is the
No.
last time I buy a house.
No. No.
You know what I mean? It's like they don't get bitter at they're just, there's just this defeat.
Yeah. I think that, so going back to one of the ones I said I'd bring up later,
Yeah.
I think that if I were to lose everything,
Yeah.
or if I were to have like a divorce or things of that nature, I think that I like to think at this point in my life I'm skillful enough to where eventually I would kind of move past it.
Yeah.
But there is the one thing that I don't know. I honestly don't know. As much as I feel like I'm a spiritual being,
Right.
as much as I feel like I'm woke, if you want to call it that, or I handle things skillfully, and
Right.
at some point I kind of come around. The one thing that does scare the hell out of me is if I were to lose one of my kids, man. I don't know if I could ever come back from that.
I don't think you're supposed to come back from that.
Right.
I really
the
don't.
only thing that I think would make me semi come back from that is I have other kids that would need me. So my feeling of loyalty to my other children, that I have to still be there for them, I think would help me at least fake it. But I think there'd still be a part of me that kind of died that day too.
And to me, I think the only thing that can even help me deal with scenario that is have an understanding that we will all be reunited in the end. And I think that's where people of faith and strong faith, and I think that's where religion gets its grasp, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Religion gets its hold on us as humans, not necessarily in the today's world,
Hope. Man.
but in the afterlife,
Yeah.
because we all know we're going to die.
Yeah.
Everybody out here right now listening and watching this knows that day is going to come where everybody they're looking
I
at
hope so.
is going to be dead.
If not,
and we know we're going to be dead.
Guess what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, unless you're one of the aliens out here, and I think you're here,
Yeah, right.
so I
Sure.
know you're listening and watching.
I
But what I'm saying is that knowing, I would have to know I'm going to see my daughter again.
right.
And she's here with me still. I would have to know that. And when I mean know that, I would have to get so deep in. You would see me probably become a very religious person should I lose one of my kids, because it would be the only thing
Right.
that would absolutely allow me to, because the opposite of that would be me being like, curse God.
Right.
There can't be a God. No God would ever
Right.
allow this to happen. You see what I'm saying? So it'd have to be, I would have to go to one of the poles more than likely.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and that's why I'm not sure how I'd respond, because being an atheist, I just don't believe in the afterlife like that.
But you may not be an atheist after that, is what I'm saying.
It's possible.
You know what I'm saying? It might push
For my
you,
own healing, I might have to.
It might push you in an outlier position, because it is an outlier situation.
Yeah.
This is not a normal situation.
No,
it's
it's
an
not.
outlier situation. So in outlier situations, you just may be pushed to be an outlier. You know what I mean?
It's possible, man. Hopefully I never have to deal with that, obviously, but
God, no.
but that's the thing, though, is that's what we're talking about today, is if you are that person that has to deal with that.
Right.
And we, sadly, we meet a lot of those people, because
Yeah.
we both work in the addiction field, who
Yeah.
lose relatives and stuff.
Yeah.
And that is a very real thing, man. And it's a hard thing to watch, to see some of these people who've lost a loved one,
Mhm.
and I've seen them go through those stages of grief, if you will. The 5, what are they? The denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, right? I've seen them go through those.
And that's kind of where I'm bringing it up from, because that's where I've communicated more with people who have lost their children.
Yeah.
You know, being in the field that we're in, this is where I've seen most people lose their kids, right? And so what I've seen is the people that are spiritually connected, more religious than even spiritual, are the ones that at least move forward in a different way. They just move forward differently. And so by seeing that, I know that I would know that. I know that I would know that.
And I've also, through some of the other dealings we've had, I've seen people who haven't healed. I've seen people who are still very angry and still very, even years later, they're in denial of what took place, you know? And I think that's important that people understand denial. Like, they're not in denial of what happened. They know that their child has passed.
Right.
But they're in denial of why or the role that happened, you know.
That it could have been prevented.
Yeah, they're denial of all that kind of all the circumstances surrounding it, basically. They just can't accept that it just happened, man. And then they carry that anger, and it forces them. It makes them overreact in certain situations, and all the while they're not realizing that it's because you haven't healed yet, man. And I think that's important. I think no matter what it is, I think that is the paramount. So if I have one message for anybody listening who is dealing with that kind of a devastation or disaster in their life, whether it be losing a home, losing a child, losing a loved one, a divorce, whatever it may be, the most important one is to strive for healing. Right. However that looks for you, whatever that might kind of be, and get help, right? I mean, you have bereavement counseling. Like, don't be afraid to reach out. Like, don't take that burden on yourself. You know, like, by all means, there are people out there who are very well versed in helping you with strategies and things of that nature to kind of move forward. But I think, to me, that's the most important thing, and that's what I think I would do. My first thoughts would be, all right, how do I start to heal?
Right.
You know, I don't want to feel this anymore. How do I start to heal? How do I start to wrap my head around what just took place? Because I wouldn't want to live with that for much longer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that I don't the things that I do not like to hypothesize is how I would respond to something, because
you never know.
I've been in some situations where I thought I knew how I'd react, and I reacted in a very different way. And you know, luckily, I've reacted in ways that I think were okay for me.
Right.
Luckily, I've reacted in ways that were very, I would say, healthy for me. But that doesn't mean I'm always going to be blessed enough to react in a healthy way, you know.
Yeah.
But I would like to believe that a tragedy will occur in my life at some point again.
Right.
I would like to believe that I've prepared enough in my own belief system and how I process through information that my instincts would take over after my initial response would do what it does. It's the initial response. I don't know what it is. That's the unknown. The initial response is the unknown. But what I do know is that I have a way of processing information, and I think after everything is said and done, I'm going to process information the way I always process information eventually. But it's that initial instinct that
well,
we
for
don't
me,
know.
my worry is the length of time that's going to take.
Correct.
Like, my initial response might be initially 5 years. You know, like, I don't know how long my initial response is going to be. Probably unskillfulness, man. I'm going to be angry. I'm going to be bitter. I'm going to be like, what the hell? I'm going to be kind of like, you know, up on my feels for a minute. But I guess my worry with certain tragedies is how long that initial thing is going to be.
Yes.
Some things will be, you know, maybe a couple minutes, a day or two, a couple weeks. Other ones, I would be worried that it would be years. And that's what scares me, I guess, is being in touch with myself enough to know that I'm in that initial response and how to get out of it. Like, you know, a phrase comes to my mind that everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And that's the kind of the mindset that I have. Granted, over the years I've changed my definition of what okay is.
Yeah.
But every day, no matter what happens in my life right now, and you know, I have ups and downs like everybody else. You know, we have good things and bad things taking place in our lives. But what gives me my solace is, in the back of my mind, I know it's going to be okay. No matter what it is, we'll figure it out. It'll be okay.
Right.
So I guess my thing is, if something like that happens, something devastating, keeping that mindset, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because it'd be very, very easy to be like, how's this going to be okay? It's never going to be okay. Yeah. You know, and I think that is something that, if you're in the middle of it and it happened, it's something you don't want to hear. You don't want people telling you it's going to be okay. Oh,
my God, bro, no.
And so on the flip side of things, if I am that person trying to console somebody, I think that it is our duty at some point to help them see that it's going to be okay, but not immediately. Like, not when they're not ready to hear it.
Right.
Because then you're going to alienate that person. You're going to piss them off, and they're not going to want anything to do with you. Like, you can end a friendship that way. And I've seen marriages end. Long marriages end because, like, a death in the family, for instance. Like
a death of a child breaks up marriages all the time.
Absolutely, because,
two people respond very differently to that.
Exactly. And then one person feels like the other person didn't love them enough, or
that's 100%.
Based upon they responded, and they don't want to understand that everybody just handles it differently.
Yep.
There really is no right or wrong way to handle, loss or disaster, devastation. Perfect example with this hurricane stuff that happened. We've had hurricanes happen here, and we've had damage here. Matter of fact, like right when we were getting ready to go on air, I had a phone call from your friend about the roof. I didn't get a chance to answer it because we're streaming stuff. So I have damage and stuff to my house. And so even in our own little sphere, if you will, I've seen people who've had hurricane damage from Charlie who were completely devastated from it. We're just, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But I've seen other people who have had really bad damage. They're like, you know what, man, it's just stuff, man. It's just stuff. It's replaceable. Everybody knows. At least they're all okay. I myself have tended to lean towards that way. Like, I've had loss of things. I've had damaged stuff that my main thing is, as long as myself, my wife, my kids, my friends, as long as everybody's okay, I can replace those things. But human life, I can't. And so that's the kind of the direction I like to take in those types of situations.
And I think you're bringing up something really important, because I think some people don't ever want to be that other because they feel that that's callous or cold or somehow lesser than.
They think that I didn't care about my stuff. Like,
right.
No, I do.
It's
I just, I put it in its proper place.
It's like going to, like, every culture deals with funerals differently, right?
See, right. I don't like to go to funerals.
Right. Well, I don't think anyone really does.
No, but I purposely don't go.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's my rules. I don't go to funerals.
But you'll go to mine, right?
Probably not.
Bastard. All right. So, but there's when I go to other cultures' funerals, it's more noticeable to me that they have a different way of dealing with stuff. But in some cultures, it's very dramatic. Like, I've been to funerals that it's like, I mean, I'm talking about the stomping, the yelling, the crying down the whole walk, and everybody's catering to it. And I'm thinking, to that person, they're feeling. But also to that person, sometimes those people feel like this is how I'm supposed to react.
Yeah.
Like, this is, if I don't react like this, or if I don't feel like this, I loved him less. Because if you just walked in there, if you're the father or the mother more, and you're not crying,
you're a horrible human
they're going to think you're either horrible, didn't love her, or you're medicated.
Which is horrible, by the way.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like you're supposed to. It's like other people judge your reactions and will judge it whether you really gave a damn or not.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's important that we put, like, the first thing to remember is whatever your process is, it's okay.
Right.
Like, that's just how you do it.
And it's okay to that if something in your head says, I really don't want to be crying, then don't.
Then don't cry.
Don't feel like you have to for anybody else.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to break down for everybody else. Just like don't feel like you have to be strong for everybody else.
Right.
Strength doesn't mean not crying all the time.
And one thing that I've noticed, being the person who's trying to provide solace to that individual who's had a disaster, whatever that disaster might be. I know a lot of people say, like, I'm not good at that, or I never know what to say. The one thing I've learned over the years, a lot of times, not every time, each person's different, obviously, but what I've learned a lot of times is they don't really want you to say anything. Just be there and listen.
So,
just if somebody calls me and they say they've lost somebody or whatever it is, or they've gone through something, my initial response is always, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But then, sometimes I just listen. Sometimes they'll start telling me about it. I just listen and let them get it out. Yeah. And that's all they needed. Yeah, they didn't need some sort of fortune cookie advice right now. Like, I don't feel the pressure, and that's what I think other people need to realize is you don't feel it's not your job to solve it for them.
Yeah.
It's your job to support. It's your job to be there and don't make it worse.
Everybody's looking for the right words, though, man.
Yeah, like, but
I don't know the right words.
Yeah,
I start off with that. I really don't know what to.
And there are no right words.
There aren't right words.
I mean, I've lost stuff before. Mm-hmm. There's absolutely nothing anybody could have said at that moment. There is the right word does not exist. Right? It's like, not to make light of it, but it's kind of like when my wife asked me what we go eat. There is no right answer.
Yeah.
Right? What do you want to eat? I don't really care. What about pizza? I don't want pizza. There is no right answer. You know what I mean? It just doesn't exist. I'm trying to bring some humor into this.
Yeah.
So like, in the middle of a loss, your job as that friend or that relative or that loved one is to understand that that person's hurting. Understand that there's no way you're going to realize how they're hurting or how much it impacted them, and to just support. I'm sorry, and listen. Let them talk. Let them get it out. That's part of their therapy process. It's part of their acceptance is to talk about it.
And it's not your turn to talk about yours.
Yes. Do not say, "Hey, at least it wasn't a rusty nail." It's probably not a good idea.
Well, the worst is like with I think when people really screw this up is prior to disaster. Let's talk about the pre-disaster.
Oh, okay.
Because it's coming, right?
All right.
All right. So let's say the hurricane's coming.
Yes.
Or you're going to go. You've been diagnosed with cancer, but you don't really know how severe it is yet.
Okay.
Or something like that, right?
Okay.
So disaster is right there looming.
Or you bought an animal.
Right. So someone is always going to be like, well, my uncle had that, and this is what it was for him. Or it's like they want to tell you this horrible thing, or this thing that it was nothing.
Right.
But it's like, I really don't want to hear your story right now because I'm telling you my story right now.
Yeah, I can see that.
So if I tell you that I was diagnosed with cancer, and you come up and tell me, or I say I have headaches, I think it's cancer. And you tell me, you know what, my uncle had headaches. He thought it was cancer. He went in the doctor. You better go to the doctor because my uncle went in. He got diagnosed. He had cancer, and he died 3 weeks later.
Jesus.
You think I'm going to go to the doctor now?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like not going.
Yeah. Although you do, I'm gonna call you out now.
Oh no, here
that
we
neck
go.
pain you
that
been
neck
having,
pain.
you gotta go to the
God
doctor, bro.
damn it, no, I'm not.
You never know.
I'm not going.
Because
I'm not doing it.
See that, but
it's like a tumor growing in here, man. There's something growing.
See,
in
talking about the
neck.
pre stuff, not to. We're gonna get a little sidetracked here, but I don't really care.
Right.
And that is, that's what that. If I'm honest with you, that's what terrifies me.
Right.
The pre stuff.
Yeah.
Like as a man who doesn't really like to go to the doctor, you know how many times I've heard somebody died of XYZ that could have been prevented had they caught it earlier?
Yeah.
That makes me want to go to the doctor like every day. I'm like, hey, you see anything here? But I don't because it's like whatever. We take for granted. We say nothing's gonna happen.
Right.
Like it happens to everybody. I feel fine.
Yeah.
But the person who got diagnosed with prostate cancer that died like a week later, that said that if they would have been checked out 6 months earlier, they'd be alive right now. They felt fine too until they didn't.
I know.
And when they didn't, it's too late. That's what scares me.
I really, really thought I was more of a prevention person until this neck pain for the last year.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
go to the doctor. Man.
And I'm talking every day, bro. I can't even move my neck.
If you guys are all watching the listeners, send him messages. Go to his Facebook every day. Just tell him to go to the doctor and get that checked out.
Hell no.
So anyway,
I've already lived longer than the diagnosis would have been. It's already been a year.
Yeah, maybe.
They would have told me I had 6 months to live. Look, I already lived a year.
There you go.
See? Andale, putos.
But no
translation needed.
Exactly. No, but I think that that is some of the most important things, man. So if you're on the if you're that person who had the devastation, man, it's important to understand that it's going to be okay eventually. Now, once again, you might have to change your definition of what okay looks like. Yeah. But it will pass, man. And that is the to get all Buddhas on everybody, everything's impermanent. Mm-hmm. So just like the good feelings of how much you love this and how awesome this moment is, and it's gonna you go on vacation, you have that great time of vacation, and then you gotta come home. It's like, oh man, I gotta come home now. All this fun was. So just like those great things that we like, that we want to go on forever end, so does the bad stuff.
Yeah. That
feeling of, I can't get through the day right now, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, that feeling will go away if you let it. That's the big one. You got to let it. Like, you can't hold on to that. You gotta work on letting that go. And letting that go doesn't mean you didn't love your loved one. Letting that go doesn't mean you didn't appreciate your house or whatever it is that you lost. Or that pet, or whatever. Letting it go doesn't mean you didn't appreciate it. Letting it go just means you appreciate now too. I love myself enough, and I love those around me enough to let it go. Mm-hmm. Because if I lost my house tomorrow and I walked around bitter and angry all the time, once again, you can be right or be happy. I can be right. I could have a million people all lined up saying, "Yeah, that sucks, dude. You lost everything," but I wouldn't be happy. And so that's my motivation. Is I want to be happy.
And again, it's not the house; it's the pictures, man. It's the memory stuff.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that you really attach to, because everybody knows you have insurance on your house.
That's why I use the cloud, man. Keep everything in the cloud. It's all digital now.
Yeah, that's when you're going to admire that part.
Yeah.
That's when you'll be like, yep. The only thing that can bother you on that is losing your password.
Yeah. Well, mine uses my face now, so I'm all right. Because that was actually a question. My daughter had this little thing, like the what if things, like this little book. And that was one of the things is, if the house was on fire, what's the one thing you would take on the way out?
My terabyte.
My answer was my phone.
Yeah.
Because I have like so many things. I have my
would
pictures.
definitely
I
take
have
my
memories. And the question, I believe, if I'm trying to get it correct, it was assuming that friends or family and animals and stuff were all out. What is the one thing you would grab? And mine was my phone.
Yeah.
Because it has and not because it has more value than anything else as far as monetary is concerned. Because I think my TV is probably more expensive, but it's because of the photos and stuff.
Right.
It's because of text messages, photos, contacts, and all things. That's my life is in my phone.
Speaking of that, the disaster people deal with on a daily basis is that loss of phones. People lose phones all day long, every day.
Well, thankfully,
that
because
is
of the
terrifying.
cloud, it is.
Yeah, but you have to have just done it or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you'll still lose something.
Yeah, you'll lose something.
Losing my phone is terrifying. You saying that right now just terrified the crap out of me.
It's funny because we talked about losing houses and stuff. The only thing you care about is the phone.
Well, because I told you the thing about the house. I don't care about the house.
Yeah.
It's what's in the house.
See, I care about my house.
It's the stuff.
I would be upset if I lost my house tomorrow. I'd be upset.
I would only be upset at losing the house if I didn't have insurance and if my pictures and stuff were in it. Right. I want my stuff, man. I'm shallow a little bit. I have some shallowness to me.
Sure.
That is attached to my stuff. I got a box that was pre-Dana. It's one box.
Right.
That box has my entire pre-Dana. Now, I haven't looked in it since I was like 19.
Right.
21 maybe. So if I look in it, it's probably full of nothing. It's probably full of just crap, right? But that box has traveled with me.
Right.
Through like 18 different houses from like 17 to 21. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So those 17 to 21 years to me is all in that box. I can't even open that box. I'm terrified to even look at it, really. It's like a time capsule.
See, I've lost.
But it has to live.
I think I do well with stuff because I've lost stuff, right? Like I was a car guy. I was big into cars and motorcycles and stuff. I've totaled cars. I've totaled motorcycles. Yeah. Like I've had motorcycles. I spent thousands of dollars customizing, making it mine. Right. I have tattoos of motorcycles. That was my life. Right. And then I would total the bike. Mm-hmm. And then my first thought when I would total the bike was, okay, what am I going to get next? And it didn't mean I didn't care for that bike and didn't love it and all those other things. It was stuff. I learned early on because I've totaled cars and things that it was just stuff,
Yeah, I've never been attached to items like that though. That's not the kind of items that kind of stuff doesn't bother me.
You're talking about
because I used to buy a new car every year,
right?
So clearly, no matter how much I liked it, my kids used to joke that as soon as I would need an oil change for some reason, I think, oh, let's re-up,
right? So you're talking about more the like photos.
I'm talking about photos.
See, for me, all my photos are on the cloud.
Not back then.
Well, no, I'm talking about now.
Yeah, but
I can't burn my house down then.
I'm talking about then stuff, and plus there's little items. There's little items that like there's items that I did lose, for instance, that I'm bothered like crazy. I had my great grandfather's Stetson. He rode a Pancho Villa. I lost it.
Wow. See, I don't have it
somewhere in my travels. I lost his Stetson.
I don't have like a rich family history.
So that bothers me. And there's things like that of me.
Right.
There's at least a script of China Beach in that. I'm sure there's at least a script of China Beach in that box.
Right.
That's a time period where I was on that show and it was kind of cool, man. I don't want to lose that. You know what I mean?
Just because you lose the stuff,
my dog tags, my China Beach dog tags, I'm sure are in that box. So there's little items of little things.
It's gonna be okay, man.
Now you're making me want to go look in the damn box.
There you go, man.
But I'm afraid to look in the box. I'm afraid it's not in there.
Right.
I'm afraid I forgot because I was like totally out of my friggin' mind when I packed the damn box the last time.
But see, what I've noticed is things that I thought had more value to me, they didn't. Like they had value at the time. Like when I put
I agree with that.
When I put it in a box to keep it, it meant so much to me. And then like 5 years later, when I'm cleaning up stuff, I say, I'm gonna get rid of that. Like I don't want that.
This is how I learned this. That what you just said. This is how I learned that thing. I've moved every 3 years. I'm a military brat.
Right.
We always lost stuff. We always never opened that box again.
Sure.
Every time we moved, here's how I knew. You'd take that one important drawer, right? And you'd put that in that box, right? But what I noticed is each time we moved houses, sometimes you left it in the box, so you never used it again. So eventually that box would just disappear. Like my mom would get rid of it, my dad would get it. I don't know. It's probably my mom. She's a non-clutter person.
Right.
So to my mom,
Me too.
all the stuff would go away. So we've all lost severe, and I think maybe that's why there's at least one box that I'm attached to, because I know I've always lost stuff. She always got rid of it.
So let me ask you, I got a philosophical one because we're running out of time here.
Right.
So being the person that has a devastation in the loss, being that person, we need to understand that it's okay to grieve, it's okay to get through it, and start the process of healing. Make sure healing is your important thing. And being on the flip side of that, there are no right words necessarily supporting the stuff. But my question is this, and you talking about that made me think about it. The people that I've noticed that are terrific at loss, and my question is why. I have some theories and thoughts about it. Children. Kids are they're pretty good at loss, at least in the moment, right? Like my kids will if they lose something or something, they get told no or some sort of disappointment, they're like the perfect little Buddhist, dude. Like it happens, they get upset, and then within a couple minutes they're on to something else, and they're totally cool. Why do you think that is? Why do you think we lose that ability?
Well, it definitely is a learned behavior, I think. How we deal with loss of anything is a learned behavior, I think.
Yeah.
However, at that moment, they don't appear like they're used to it at all. You take a little kid's binky, whatever.
They freak out. But within minutes, they're fine.
But then it's done. It's done.
Which is what I think we need to do as adults.
I think it's how we respond to that. Like if they lose their chupon, I call it a chupon. That's the binky, right? The thing in the mouth. Yeah. All right. So when they lose that thing, or they lose their my niece had this bug, and she would lose the bug, or it was
my daughter's got a giraffe
toy, and it would freak out. But it's the way the adults freak out with that. I think that teaches that's a really bad thing. Whereas if you kind of let a child deal with loss early on, the way we did with death with our kids. We talked about it openly. We dealt with it openly. They did go to the funerals with us. Right. We had conversations about it. In other words, we kind of put them in situations, and you could and at the moment, other adults were like, kids shouldn't see that. And I was the opposite. I was like, no, this is when they learn that. Yeah. Just like when you throw them in the water and they learn how to swim. You try learning how to swim at 30 years old compared to learning how to swim when you just throw a little infant in the water and let that little infant swim. It's a very different scenario. So
sure.
If you throw a little kid in really difficult scenarios and teach them this is normal and this is part of it, now my kids aren't terrified of death. They don't have those same feelings about death. They're not callous about it, but they're not. So my answer to your question in a long way is it's a learned behavior. Everything, the way you respond right now, the way you react to pain and suffering and all that stuff is definitely a learned behavior. Yeah. And if you're telling me you prefer the way you react rather than maybe go back to your past self from 0 to 5 and teach yourself from 0 to 5 some different way to respond to that, man, come on now.
Yeah, well, because I've seen there's adults in my life that I know that something little, to me, little insignificant will happen. It'll mess up their whole day and weeks. To whereas my daughter, you mentioned earlier, you had these things, binkies or whatever. My daughter has this little giraffe, right? It was a giraffe that a friend of the family gave her for Christmas or whatever. It's really this dumb little giraffe that when you pull the little cord, it plays some music. Mm-hmm. I want to say it's like a Disney one. It's like a $50 little giraffe. It's weird, but there's nothing really inherently special about it. But for whatever reason, she just kind of gravitated to it as a child. And she's been sleeping with it every day since she was born, and she just turned 9, the other day. So she's had this giraffe forever.
Awesome, yeah.
And when she goes to
means
bed,
something to her.
Yeah, and when it goes to bed, it's one of those hey, where's my giraffe? Yeah. And it's there was some time period there to where you could not go to sleep unless we found this stupid giraffe.
Right.
We've tried to get replacement. Nope, this giraffe is what it is. But now there's been days, in the last few months even, where maybe she was playing in some other room and had it, and we couldn't find it, and it's bedtime, and Dad does not really feel like looking for this stupid-ass giraffe when it's getting ready to go to bed. I was like, look, man, it obviously wasn't that important because you didn't have it with you when you went to bed, so we'll find it tomorrow. And begrudgingly, she was like, okay, and she goes to sleep. Whereas before, that wasn't going to happen.
Oh, good.
So I've seen now, her kind of acceptance, okay, it still means something to her for sure, but she's able to deal with it differently now.
You're very fortunate. Good, because...
Well, I've tried to instill that in them.
That would have never happened in my family.
Right.
And I got to be honest with you. If my kids would have been attached to something like that, I would have had issue with that. That's right. I'm the most feeling in my family of 4. I'm talking about my dad, my mom, my brother.
Okay.
I'm the most feeling. However, they did raise me in that. You ever see the show Titus? Does that show?
A long time ago, yeah.
The father was real callous. And
Yeah.
Just deal with it.
Yeah.
Shake it off. I was raised very hardcore like that.
Right.
Very hardcore like that. So even though I'm the most feeling, I still have that hardcore in me. And so when you get if you're a little child and get attached to something, I will break you of that real early on. That will not happen in a little kid.
You're such a meanie, man.
No, and that's what I'm saying. But that's why I told Dana, I'm not good with little kids. I'll deal with the kids when they're teenagers, because when they're little kids, I'll take it off from them. If they're going to act like that toy's a big deal,
Candy. Give me a candy, little boy.
I'll burn the dang thing in front of them if you let me.
Oh, God.
So I'm not. I'm just saying it, because the point is that I know that is why I'm not attached to some things that other people really get hurt about. Like I said, I have that one little box, right? So, but even that,
I'm gonna go burn that box.
I know I can deal with it. I really do. I really do. I don't, but there's a part of me that doesn't want you. Remember when I said there's people that think that you're supposed to be attached? I'm one of those. I'm supposed to be more attached. Right. So to me, it's a thing that I'm supposed to be more attached to people than I am. I'm supposed to be more attached to items than I am. I'm supposed to be more attached to this life than I am. Because to me, I felt very disconnected at some point in my life, and I realized how easy it was for me to disconnect from people, disconnect from items, disconnect from the world, and I don't want to. To me, the disconnecting is scary for me. So I feel by connecting the items, it kind of helps me live. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No,
I mean, it's just
I was kind of the opposite. Like my disconnection was my safe space. Like I disconnected from everything. Is one of those things because it was like a power deal when I was a kid. Like I'm gonna disconnect because if I don't care about you, you can't hurt me, type of thing. So I became really, really good at just being like, whatever.
So the opposite.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
I became excellent at that, and there was a point in my life where I was very proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was proud of the fact that I could like completely cut anybody or anything off, and not care. As an adult, I'm no longer as proud of that. And I've worked very, very hard to like undo that. Having said that, there's only a few things in this world, and mostly my kids, really, that it would be devastating if I lost. Other than that, I could revert back to that very, very quickly and just disconnect. Like, I'm good.
I can't be disconnected. I have to stay connected.
But I don't think that's healthy, though.
Connectivity saves my life, man. I need to stay connected to things,
not
only people, but things. By doing that, I think it gives me purpose, and I never want to be in that place so disconnected again.
Right.
And I don't think I did it purposeful, but I think something internally when I was being physically hurt, when the traumas in my life happened, something mentally just disconnected. When but I don't ever want to be disconnected again. And for some reason, I feel like that's how you do it.
Very cool. Well, we're running out of time.
Say, bro, I'll stop. Let me turn my
I'm
microphone
going to get my 3 things, and then I want to talk about our hunt, too, by the way. I want to leave some time at the end of that. So let's go and do our 3 things. All right, so today's show was dealing with disaster, and disaster has a multitude of different definitions. But it's important to understand that however you define disaster, whatever that is to you, be it disaster is losing somebody, losing something, terminal illness, whatever it may be, it's relevant, right? Don't allow anybody else to minimize your disaster. Having said that, you don't have to go out there and make sure everybody feels it either. That's your disaster, and however you define that is okay. The second one would be whatever process that you're going through is normal, and it's okay. If you cry, if you don't cry, if you get angry, if you don't get angry, they do have the 5 stages of grief, but there's no law that says that's how you have to do it. Your process might be completely different. You might find out that things didn't mean as much as they did, or you respond differently, and that's all okay. Whatever your process is, it's okay. You just got to make sure that your goal is to heal from that, and that is my third and final point. My third and final point is it's going to be okay. Once again, you might have to change your definition of what okay looks like. But no matter what you're going through, there is an end. It's going to be okay. Somehow, some way, you will get through it. No matter what it is, it's going to end. It's all impermanent, good or bad. So that would be my 3 things. I'm going to thank the sponsors real quick, and then I want to talk about the hunt. Sponsors, we have Retreat Premier Addiction Treatment Centers, fantastic facilities and organization, good people, both Peter Shore, Tom Garofolo, all of them. We got Journey Pure, Jamie Vance, of course. We got Jerry Lucas. We got Patrick Dunn, all great people. Patrick Dunn, hey, go Notre Dame, baby. We're ranked number 3 right now. And then we have Orange County Drug Free Coalition, Carol Burkett and all of them, Eileen, all good, and Janet, all good people down there. And then finally, last but not least, the Now Matters More Foundation, to which I'm the president. Dope Doctor here is the founder. If you need some help with drug and alcohol addiction, you can reach out to us at 833-NOW-MATTERS. That's 833-NOW-MATTERS. Or you can go to nowmattersmore.org, and you can see who we are, what we do. You can donate to the cause if you want. And you can see the hunt, We just had a hunt. It was an online scavenger hunt on Instagram. For those of you that participated, thank you so much. It was awesome. It was fun this year. Louie and I both did all 25 tasks. We did with our family, which is awesome. And I believe we're going to release the winner in the next couple days on our social media. If you go to at Now Matters More, at Now Matters More, I think it is, on Instagram, you'll see us release that here soon. But it was a fun time. You got something to add to that before we get off here?
No, I was just going to say we'll announce the winner on the Couch Live.
Right on. Oh, look at that. Good plug. Couch Live on Fridays, 12 to 1. I love it. All right, guys. Now that you know better, do better. Peace.
I think he plans it all out. Just makes it up as he goes along.
Human knowledge belongs to the world.